The old Woodlands compound wasn't just an eyesore, it was a neighborhood legend. Enclosed by a rusted iron fence and drowned in overgrown ivy, the massive stone house had stood empty since the late 90s. Or at least, it was supposed to be empty. Lately, Willow Creek had been on edge. It started with a low, rhythmic thumping sound heard at midnight. Then came the sightings. Vague, hunched figures with glowing eyes darting past the cracked windows. Mrs. Lim, who lived across the street, claimed she saw a creature with 6 legs crawling up the chimney. Within a week, the local Facebook group was a frenzy of alien and ghost theories. By the second week, the sidewalk bordering the compound was deserted. Even the mailman delivered from the safety of his van. Amaya and Ella, both 10 years old and equipped with a healthy dose of skepticism, weren't buying it. 6 legs? Amaya scoffed, adjusting her glasses as they sat on Ella's porch. If a 6-legged alien traveled light years to Earth, why would it choose a dusty old house in Singapore? The logic doesn't track. Ella nodded, clicking her flashlight on and off.
Something is fishy.
And ghosts don't make thumping noises. They wail or rattle chains, according to the books. Thumping sounds like construction. They shared a look. It was Saturday. The moon was a silver sliver in the sky, and they had 2 walkie-talkies and a backpack full of juice boxes. It was time for a stakeout. The girls reached at the main gate and slipped through a gap in the perimeter fence at 9 p.m. The air inside the compound felt 10 degrees colder. Every snap of a twig sounded like a gunshot in the heavy silence. "Stay low," Ella whispered. As they approached the main house, a sudden, guttural howl echoed from the basement vents. It didn't sound like an animal. It sounded like a recording played through a blown speaker.
Look! Yeah. The sound frequency is perfectly consistent. It's a loop.
Suddenly, a flickering green light illuminated the second-story window. A hulking, jagged shape moved behind the glass. Something that looked far too tall to be human, with long, spindly arms. "Is that the creature?" Ella's voice trembled slightly.
It's a hoax! Someone is trying to scare people away!
The girls crept toward the back of the house, where a cellar door sat slightly ajar. A faint smell of diesel and stale coffee wafted up from the darkness. Ignoring the instinct to run, they slipped inside. The basement was surprisingly clean compared to the rest of the ruin. Cates of electronics were stacked against the walls, and a series of high-end computer monitors glowed in the corner. But it was what sat in the center of the room that made Ella's heart race. Stacks of canvas bags marked with the logos of local jewelry stores and banks. "This isn't a haunting," Ella whispered. "It's a warehouse." "Hey, did you hear that?" A rough voice barked from the floor above. Heavy footsteps began to descend the wooden stairs. The girls scrambled. There was no time to get back out the cellar door without being seen. Amaya spotted a large, empty wooden crate and shoved Ella toward it. They scrambled inside, pulling a piece of burlap over their heads just as 2 men entered the room. One was tall and thin, holding a remote control, the device for the creature upstairs. The other was thick-set, carrying a heavy bag that clinked with the unmistakable sound of metal on metal. The ghost is working like a charm. The tall one laughed. The cops won't even drive down this block anymore because of the supernatural reports. We'll have the whole city's hall moved out by Monday. Just make sure the speakers are turned up tonight, the husky one replied. I saw some kids loitering near the fence earlier. We need to give them a real show.
Amaya's heart was drumming against her ribs. They weren't just dealing with a prank. This was the West Side Gang the news had been talking about for months. She reached into her pocket and felt her walkie-talkie. If she called for help now, the static would give them away instantly. She nudged Ella and pointed to a small, barred window near the ceiling, the coal chute. It was small, but they were 10. They waited until the men moved to the far end of the basement to inspect their loot. Moving like shadows, the girls climbed onto a stack of pallets. Amaya boosted Ella up first. Ella squeezed through the narrow opening, scraping her elbows but making no sound. Then she reached back down. Amaya grabbed Ella's hands, but as she pulled herself up, her sneaker kicked an empty soda can. "Who's there?" the tall man shouted. Amaya didn't look back. She scrambled through the chute, falling into the damp dirt outside. "Run!" Ella hissed.
Don't look back, just run!
They didn't head for the fence. They knew the men would check there first. Instead, they ran toward the old carriage house, a smaller building tucked in the corner of the lot. Inside, Amaya pulled out her phone. "I have the whole thing," she gasped, holding up her phone. She had hit record the moment they entered the basement. She had the faces, the loot, and the confession. "We need to get this to the police, but they're coming!" Ella pointed out the window. The flashlights of the 2 men were bobbing across the lawn, heading straight for the carriage house. "We have to use their own game against them," Amaya said, her brain sparking with an idea. She remembered the remote control the man was holding. He had mentioned the speakers were on a loop. She looked at her phone. She had a Bluetooth scanning app from a science project. "If their speakers are high-end, they might be unsecured," she muttered, her fingers flying. "Got it! Sterling_audio_external." She paired her phone to their system. "Ella, give me the scariest noise you can make." Ella grinned. She didn't scream. She took the phone and played a high-pitched, distorted recording of a police siren she found on YouTube. But she slowed it down to 0.5 times speed, making it sound like a demonic, mechanical wail. Then, she layered it with a recording of her own voice, whispered and echoed, "We see you." The sound exploded from the hidden speakers, hidden in the trees all around the men. The robbers froze. In the dark, with the distorted sirens and the booming whispers, they panicked. They didn't know if it was the police or the ghosts they had been faking, but the psychological pressure broke them. They turned and bolted back toward the house to grab their keys. But they were too late. Amaya had already used her walkie-talkie to alert Ella's dad, a local dispatcher, the moment they were clear of the basement. By the time the robbers reached their getaway van, 4 patrol cars had blocked the gates of the compound. The creatures were hauled down, the cardboard cutouts were taken as evidence, and the ghosts were led away in handcuffs. The West Side Gang had been outsmarted by 2 girls with a flashlight and a skepticism for the supernatural. The next morning, the neighborhood was transformed. The fear that had hung over the streets like a fog had evaporated. Mrs. Gable even brought over a tray of cookies for the Willow Creek detectives. "So," Ella said, taking a giant bite of an oatmeal raisin
best cookies
cookie.
ever.
"No aliens, no 6-legged monsters, just greedy guys with a projector." Amaya looked at the now quiet Sterling compound and smiled. "True, but you have to admit your demon siren voice was pretty convincing."
Hi guys, if you liked the video, help to share, like, and subscribe.